Hi, welcome to Straight Talk. You know, we're still in the middle of a heroin epidemic. School has started, kids are back in school, parents are now realizing what their kids were up to. Spouses are finding out what their spouse is up to when it comes to drugs and alcohol. And we're fortunate in the Baltimore area to have a program called the Maryland Addiction Recovery Center. They provide amazing service, but the most important thing that I think they really provide is the initial contact. When you're looking for help, you want to make sure you call and speak to somebody that is caring, that brings you in and helps you. And today on Straight Talk, we have Jennings, who does that every single day at the Maryland Addiction Recovery Center. Welcome to the show. Dawn, you are the first line when someone's calling for help and they call a Maryland Addiction Recovery Center. They get you. You're the ones that they speak to. So you have a very important role to play, because I'm sure when people call, they're scared, they're nervous, they're upset. What's it like? What kind of calls? Because you were telling me you get 20, 25 a day of people looking for help.
Absolutely.
What's that like? I mean, what do you hear from people?
Well, it depends on who's calling. Typically, it's parents calling, not knowing what to do and needing guidance. Sometimes it's spouses calling, same reason, not knowing what to do and needing guidance. Or they've called 20 or 30 other places and have gotten no help. So they call us, and it's part of what we do is to bring them in and educate them to kind of get their own help as well and their own support, but then also have the patient come in and get them the services that they need.
So what are you hearing from people when they call in? Is it, are they at the end of the rope, or are they desperate? I mean, what do you hear from people these days?
A little bit of both. Sometimes it's their first encounter with treatment, and they really don't have any idea what to do or even what to expect in terms of treatment or what that looks like. Sometimes it's they've been in treatment multiple times and they're looking for a more intensive program that will address all their issues. And with our extended care program, we try to do that. So it just really depends on what's going on. Sometimes it's a matter of they need detox, or they need a higher level of care, they need inpatient, so we'll facilitate that referral as well.
So when they make that first call, it sounds like what you're saying is that they really don't understand treatment or what to expect.
Right.
And it's up to you. You kind of have to kind of reel them in a little bit. But so you're doing a lot of education just right over the phone.
Oh, absolutely. We do a whole lot of family education. Sometimes we'll get them an interventionist if need be. Sometimes we'll bring them in and speak to the family ahead of time and kind of prompt the family and help them learn how to set some boundaries, and that way there's no loopholes for when the patient's ready to come in or when they're ready to present it to the patient. And then we kind of go from there. We'll bring in the patient, do an initial assessment, meet with the family, get some information from them as well, and then determine what's the most appropriate level of care at that point in time, whether it's with MARC or with someone else.
Right. So you, on that initial call, you're doing kind of an evaluation in your own head of what's going on, because I'm sure they have stories that they would just like to talk to you for an hour.
Oh, and sometimes it turns into that. Sometimes we're the self-help line as well, or the crisis line, or whatever it ends up being. But that's what our philosophy is at MARC, is even if we can't help them, then we'll make sure that we find a place that can. Sometimes insurance is a barrier, sometimes finances is a barrier, but we'll make sure we find the right fit. Yeah.
Now the school's back. Are you hearing from parents?
Yes.
Oh my God, I realized what my kid was up to.
Yeah, so actually even over the summer, more calls came in. Usually it's the school year has ended, or they've went away to college, and then they've realized, wow, my son or daughter has failed out, and they want us to fix them over the summer so they can go back in the fall. And that's not really a realistic goal either, so we have a lot of education, a lot of work to do with that.
So parents are calling with, I'll drop them off and please fix them, I'll pick them up at 5. Something like that.
Something like that, yes. Yeah. But usually with the work that we do with the family and the coaching that we do, they'll realize pretty quickly that that's not necessarily a realistic goal. We do have other partners that we work with that have college-bound programs. So if it's appropriate that they do return to college at that point in time, then we have monitoring services available and also additional wraparound services when they do go back to college. So that
your
doesn't
job,
happen.
and I'm sure treatment centers all over the country have an intake person that takes that initial call. I mean, you really are. You're a therapist, you're a hotline, your information flow of everything from insurance to what programs, and then you're a referral source.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have a lot to do.
We do. There's a huge need here, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, I think people don't understand that initial call and that evaluation. When you talk about evaluation, so someone calls you and you say, well, bring the person in, because it's usually someone else calling.
Usually it is.
Isn't it?
It's a rare case that we'll have the actual patient call in. My experience with working in other facilities in the past is they usually will hang up on a family and say, they're an adult, have them call in themselves, but that's not really realistic when someone's out there in active addiction. The phone calls from the patient themselves is few and far between. I mean, you may here and there get a phone call like that, but it's kind of a lot to go through, particularly if you're caught up in active addiction out there. It's not really, you're not getting the help that you need if you have to have the patient call, particularly at other facilities. There are wait lists, there are insurance hurdles, there's finances again, that are involved. So it's really difficult to have a patient consistently have to call back every single day at 8 a.m. on a wait list and expect them to really follow through with that. So where we're a little different is that we want to talk with families. We understand that it's not just about the identified patient. We understand that it's a family disease, and we get that we need to also incorporate them as much as we possibly can, because that's the key to really having some long-term, recovery.
I mean, that's a really great philosophy if you think about it, because there's so many people that say, well, they have to hit rock bottom and they have to do this for themselves.
Yeah.
And you're saying, no, it's a family issue, and we just want to get them in.
Right. And a lot of times what ends up happening is our job is to really coach families in order to learn how to set boundaries.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
We're talking with Dawn Jennings, who does the intake work at Maryland Addiction Recovery Center. And it's amazing to hear how important her job is. And we're going to keep her because I want to learn more about what she does and how she helps people get in the door of treatment when we come back. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back to Straight Talk.
Why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Having trouble finding Connor's middle school? Would you like directions?
No, why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Finding lowest airfare to Istanbul.
No, I'm tired of fighting with him over homework.
Home, walk, restaurant. Need a review?
No, I need help. He's very smart, but his mind wanders. He's disorganized.
I think I understand.
Oh, good.
French fries. Finding best potatoes.
No!
Russet. Fingerling. You can't go.
Why don't you understand me?
Sorry, I was trying to show how Connor feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
For the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues, this is what life can feel like. Explore understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues, designed to help your child thrive in school and in life. Understood.org, because understanding is everything.
So they say it's a man's world? Well, I don't see anybody's name on it. While they were out doing their thing, we slowly changed all that. We changed all that. Today, women can do anything men can do. And there's one thing we're even better at.
Hi, welcome back to Straight Talk. We're talking with Dawn Jennings, who is the intake guru at the Maryland Addiction Recovery Center an amazing treatment center here in the Baltimore area. They're in Towson, Pikesville, provide great services, and we're learning from Dawn all the great things they do. It's important to know that if you care about somebody, if you're worried about somebody, you know somebody, or yourself, and you need help, give them a call, you know, and you'll talk to Dawn. And she's so good at what she does, right? They'll get you.
They'll get me, or they'll get our admissions team, absolutely.
And they'll come in and then they'll call you and they'll say, I got a problem, I need help, help me.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that what they say?
Yeah, exactly. And they just need, sometimes they just need someone that cares enough to listen. Because most places, if it's a matter of what insurance do you have, how much money do you have, and if you don't fit their criteria, they hang up on you. Yeah. And we try to understand that maybe not everyone's going to be a fit for us, but just taking that extra time really, it matters to them, and they really appreciate what we do, you know, on the front line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that is an issue, the cost of treatment.
Yes.
I mean, we're in an epidemic right now.
Yes.
Over 60,000 people died from overdoses last year. We're in an epidemic. People need help. And the reality is there's not enough programs for those who can't afford it. It's just government's not doing their job. You all are a private program.
Right.
And you take insurance, I assume, and
But
you have to find out about that. That's in all programs do.
Yeah. So we take private insurance, and we are only out of network. So we don't accept Medicaid or Medicare or some of the grant funding that a lot of places do. But all of our admission staff is really well versed in the places that do accept those. And so if we can find them a bed somewhere and help facilitate a warm handoff to another place, then we've done our job, because a lot of places aren't willing to take the time to do that. And you know, if you just really just sit back and evaluate just that piece of things, and the frustration level of people that are in active addiction, and the phone calls that they've made repeatedly, and the cold shoulders they've received from everyone else, it's kind of nice. They really appreciate you taking the time. So that's what we try to do.
So even if you can't
Absolutely.
handle them, either because of the drug issue or money issue, you'll try to find them something.
Yeah.
But it is an issue.
Oh, it's a huge
It's a big
issue.
issue out there right now.
Huge
and
issue.
You probably hear it every day.
I mean, now that the medical assistance policies, they do allow for inpatient treatment, 2 episodes per year. Most of the facilities that accept it are full, and there's a wait list. There's not enough resources in the state of Maryland to meet the need, unfortunately.
Yeah, that is unfortunate, especially given the fact that we do have this epidemic.
Yeah.
I mean, opiate, is that the main calls you get because it's the biggest problem?
I would say with the younger population, I would say it's more so opiate pills, Percocet, things like that. And then, of course, the heroin, and now the synthetic heroin, the carfentanil, things like that. But there's also other drugs. I mean, there's still alcohol. That's a huge issue. A lot of people need detox. There's still, you know, people that are having mental health symptoms as a result of prescription drugs or marijuana use even. They've having psychotic episodes and such.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah,
makes...
they say that the marijuana today is so strong that kids are having psychotic episodes. That's unbelievable just in itself.
Yeah.
We've never heard that, but you're hearing that on your calls from parents.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people that they think they're smoking marijuana, and it ends up being the synthetic marijuana, which we don't know what's in that. And even if they've had no mental health treatment in the past or any kind of signs or symptoms of mental health, they'll present in an ER having a psychotic episode. Wow. And same thing with the synthetic research drugs that you can buy online now. No one knows what that is either. They'll market it as having been a benzodiazepine, or they'll market it as being something that's an anti-anxiety medication or a natural supplement that they're buying online, and no one knows what it is. And that's pretty scary too, because, yeah.
Wow. And so when they call you, they're giving you symptoms. They're saying, here's my son, my daughter, here's what they're doing. What do I do?
Yeah.
How do I get them to go to treatment?
Exactly.
They need treatment, and then you walk them through some steps. Because you said earlier that you also offer interventions. You hear about TV show intervention. People hear about interventions.
Sure.
They're real.
Oh, they're real.
They really do happen.
Yeah, and sometimes they're needed. We do a lot of mini interventions, if you will. If we can get the person to come into the office, we'll take the time and sit down with them and their family and develop a plan and kind of do a little assessment and figure out what's the best course of action at that point in time. But sometimes they're not willing. Sometimes the family's lost contact with them. They don't know where they are. Last they heard, they were in a hotel, they were homeless, they were on the street, they were, couch surfing, whatever they're doing. And then at that point, we typically would call in interventionists that we work with in the community, and we'll figure out a way to find them and, go and intervene, just kind of like you do see on TV.
Like you do, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like a little play.
Yeah.
That they try to convince that person to go to treatment.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, jumping back on this insurance thing, if you were to say to parents of 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 13, before the whole issue, they need to be prepared for insurance.
They do need to be prepared for insurance, and they need to get a policy that'll cover decent insurance. A lot of times they call and they'll have an HMO policy where you can only go in network, and they're limited as to where you can go and the type of treatment that you can get, unfortunately. So we're out of network, and a lot of the places that we refer to are also out. We have a few that are in network that we work with, but the majority of the ones that are considered to be reputable, typically they're not in network. And the reason for that is that most of those facilities have other services that insurance doesn't recognize as being something that's of value. Yoga, for instance, or equine therapy, or those sorts of things that insurance, they don't see it as a medical necessity at all.
Right.
Yeah. And that's
so your recommendation for parents who are watching who have younger kids and they have a chance to change their policy, that go heavy on the substance abuse treatment and mental health treatment that's in their policy, make sure they have good coverage, is what you're saying.
Definitely make
just
sure they
in
have.
case.
Yes.
That's good prevention.
Yes. And if they're on their parents' policy, prepare for them to turn 26 and get dropped.
Right.
And then that's another thing that we deal with a lot. They're young adults, they aren't financially stable, they're used to the parents paying for things, and then they turn 26 and all of a sudden, reality hits that they have to go buy a policy. And sometimes they don't know the rules in terms of the events that have to take place in order to get insurance if it's not open enrollment. You only have a certain amount of time after you turn 26 to get a policy. And if not, you have to wait for open enrollment again. And that may be months.
Could be months.
Yeah.
Good. We're talking with Dawn Jennings. We're getting amazing, this is amazing. This is inside information on what goes on at a treatment center, what you need to know to successfully get the person you care about into treatment. And we're kind of learning the inner workings of how that is with Dawn, and I really appreciate it. And we're going to hold her over for the final segment because there's so much to talk about. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come right back to Straight Talk.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes? B, console her?
Don't worry, sweetie. This is gonna happen a lot.
Or C, find her a new boyfriend?
Nice, single boys. That was weird.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
It's a short ride from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Find fun activities to do, like boating and biking, or camping and hiking, plus much more. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org. Don't allow your weight to threaten your health or control your future. Excess weight, or obesity, can cause emotional and physical health risks. But you can take control. The Your Weight Matters campaign offers free resources and tips to help you measure and understand your weight. Take the Your Weight Matters Challenge. The free toolkit prepares you to speak with a healthcare provider about your weight. Your weight does matter. Take the challenge and take control today.
Hi, welcome back to Straight Talk. We're talking with Dawn Jennings from the Maryland Addiction Recovery Center. Dawn handles the intake. So when you call for help, you're going to get to see Dawn, and she's going to talk to you either on the phone or when you get into the center and learn all about what Maryland Addiction Recovery Center has to offer. Now, when you talk about treatment, there's lots of different levels of treatment. So when someone calls, one is you can make a quick assessment, but then you want them to come in for a formal assessment. Now, what is that?
Sure. So the formal assessment is basically we meet with the patient, we go through their entire biopsychosocial history. So that's their drug use history, that's their medical history, their medication, both current and past, mental health history, history of any kind of suicidal ideation, any history of self-harm, other addictive behavior, gambling, you know, all that kind of stuff. We look at all of it. We also look at their family history and the dynamics that's current in their life, who are their support systems, where are they living currently, you know, what's going on in their life, what sort of issues are they having, and then we kind of make an assessment from there. We determine what's the most appropriate level of care at that point in time.
Is the family involved in that, or?
Generally, we try our best to get the family involved with that.
The whole view of everything that's going on.
Yeah, I mean, we do the initial assessment with the patient without the family, but the families are standing by, and then when the assessment's over, we certainly want to add them to the equation just to get any additional information. Sometimes, you know, patients aren't very forthcoming, or sometimes they don't remember.
Possibly might lie once in a while.
They might.
It's very possible, I would think, with addicts.
And they're very poor historians.
Yeah.
You know, of course, if you've been doing drugs and alcohol for a really long time, you're not going to remember everything.
Right.
So the families are the ones that really give us that additional information, and also the referral sources. Sometimes they've been in outpatient therapy somewhere in the community, and we'll get a referral from that, and we'll want to talk to that therapist too because they have a relationship with them, so that's important.
And then you have to make that judgment of, well, we think he or she could be successful in outpatient, inpatient. I mean, you have all these different levels.
Yeah. So we'll look at the ASAM criteria, and that's basically what we base it off of. All the dimensions, so we'll look at acute intoxication potential, withdrawal potential, medical exacerbation as a result of their drug use. We'll look at their emotional status and their mental health status. Are they stable on medications? We look at who are they living with, what sort of people are they hanging around, you know, are they functioning at all, are they working? You know, how is their marriage if they're married, how is the relationship with their family, all of that kind of stuff. And then we also look at their recovery environment. So where are they going to be out in the community? If they are going to be in an outpatient setting, do they have people that don't get high around them? Do they have people that are sober? Do they have their family support? Or are they out there isolating, living alone in an apartment all by themselves with just them in their head, you know? So that's really what we look at, all of those things.
And you're able at Maryland Addiction Recovery Center to offer pretty much all those levels.
Right.
If they need detox, if they're on something and they need to get off, you'll help them. And then you've got all those levels you mentioned.
Yeah. So we have, we do an ambulatory detox for opiates, and that's very short term on an outpatient basis. We don't do that. Typically, we try to refer to a higher level of care to do that, but we have a few that have done that and done pretty well, but it's very short. We don't use maintenance drugs for long periods of time, and we don't, you know, entertain methadone or anything like that there. Alcohol, benzodiazepine, we're definitely going to refer to a monitored setting, whether it be a hospital or freestanding detox or an actual inpatient facility, just because there's such a, you know, withdrawal potential, you know, seizures.
From alcohol, which alcohol
absolutely.
seems to be more deadly than even heroin.
Oh,
to get off
absolutely.
of.
So in withdrawal, sure,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So there's potential for seizures, DTs, you know, the shakes, the tremors, and then you have to look at their medical too. So if they already have pre-existing conditions, if they have hypertension, if they've had a seizure in the past, they're high risk, you know, we'll want to make sure that they're medically monitored appropriately, and our doctors they don't believe in doing an outpatient detox for that. It's just not. It's just not safe.
And these are the determinations you're making in that assessment.
Yeah.
And then I guess the heavy end is residential living in a facility, and you guys have beds and are able to do that.
So we just opened a new facility. It's an apartment complex about 15 minutes away from our office. And it's a really amazing opportunity for the patients because they not only get to have their primary, full extended care treatment there, they can also step down on the continuum. So if they start at a partial hospitalization level of care, they make their way to the intensive outpatient level care, then traditional outpatient level care, then we have transition, and then we have our alumni program. So they can stay with us the whole duration of the treatment. And that's really important too. During that period of time, they'll establish connections in the community. We'll make sure that they have sober supports lined up when they come through the door. We'll link them with our alumni buddies in our program that have, completed all of that and they're doing well. And usually, even if they're from out of state or they've come from another treatment facility, even if they don't come there thinking they're going to stay, most of them actually end up staying in the area.
There,
yeah.
You get a job.
And get a job. And we do the vocational process too, because each patient has a different need. Sometimes they'll want to go back to college. That might be their goal, or maybe they just want to, get a recovery job just to kind of get their feet wet again, or maybe they want to re-engage in their career that they've lost, or whatever it is. So if they get to that point, we'll help them, start developing those sort of things, and also life skills, which is really important for the patients that we have.
So it's safe to say that the longer someone stays in treatment, the better.
Definitely.
And in general, would you say that?
I would definitely say that. I mean, I think all modalities have their place, depending on the patient and their need. But what we've seen is that 28 days is just not enough.
Not enough. And you guys at Maryland Addiction have that whole continuum. You were spectacular. This is so important. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and letting the public know how to get help and what's that process so they're not afraid. And you did a great job, and you're doing wonderful work.
Thank you.
You're helping a lot of people, and you're the first one they talk to. So thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Today on Straight Talk, we're talking about how to get into treatment. School's back in session. Parents are realizing what's going on with their kids, spouses. So many people need help. Now you know how to make that first call. And I want to thank Dawn Jennings, Maryland Addiction Recovery Center, and thank you for watching Straight Talk, and we'll see you next time.